Chapter 5, The Law of Polarity. We forget that things can only be things when there is something which is not a thing. The space. Green, shiny frogs bounce up and down on top of soft, slick lily pads. Their emerald sheen flickers in the moonlight. Their incandescent croaks bounce off the hard branches and paper-like leaves with their murky niche. Each sound gives definition to the dark world around them. Are the lily pads really that soft, though? They're hard enough to use as a spring, but soft enough to evoke softness from our own fingertips. And since we're on the subject, is the lily pad really that slick? I mean, the frogs seem to handle it just fine. To their feet, the lily pads must have a pretty sturdy grip. How about that murky, dark niche of theirs? I'm sure they can see just fine. How rude of me to call their refulgent, shining oasis murky. Excuse us humans, poor little green friends, for we know not what we speak. Poor? Little? How easy it is to forget. After all, to the smaller insects, you are mighty and ferocious hunters, snapping your whip-like tongues hundreds of feet long and snatching the souls of helpless prey as they soar through the sky. The law of polarity is a fun game, isn't it? I was being as facetious as I could, but in all realness, there was nothing wrong with either side of the conundrum. The lily pads were both soft and hard, depending upon what it was that was trying to evoke it. The swamp was both murky and luminous, depending upon whose eyes were watching. The frogs, while tiny to us, must look to a fly like blue whales with 200-foot-long tongues that devour bodies in the blink of an eye. Uh-oh. Fire helicopters. It's fire season well into December in Southern California. We might have some fire on the horizon. Actually, I think I see it. Holy shit. Yep. It's definitely a fire. Whoa. Anywho. Where were we? The universe is nothing until the invocation by consciousness, and really it's true. The universe is darkness until its light is thrust upon the eye, and the world is lit up via the mind. Without one, we cannot have the other. This is a byproduct of the law of polarity. We as humans evoke, and in that evocation of existence, two polar opposites for each thing that reveals itself manifests. Everything that is created within the mind of the all must manifest itself on all planes, both a positive and a negative side. On all planes, 3D, 4D, 5D, there must always be a positive and negative on whatever plane of existence throughout existence. As above, so below, in other words. There must be an experience of something, anything, and without the opposite of one thing, there would be no experience. There would just be sameness. Within the infiniteness of the space between these poles is where we find ourselves. Our lives are riddled with subjectivity, and the capacity for discovery is shy on everlasting. Think of a thermometer. There is nowhere on the thermometer that says this is hot and this is cold. It is only a gauge with which we can determine the degree of heat energy present within a location. Now imagine that little red line as it swings from one side to the other. You will notice that the red line never actually changes in character. It's always the same thing, only varying in degree. Same line, varying in degree. What I mean to say is that the red line will always be the red line. Hot and cold are the exact same thing. They are two different ways of seeing energy. This applies to everything. Opposites are exactly the same. All that changes is the degree of the thing in mention. When that thing slides more prominently to one side, we give it a name. And when it swings back in the other direction, we call it something else. And when it hangs somewhere in the middle long enough, we go to war over it. Depressing, I know. But it is still the same thing. After all is one, right? Everything emanates from Source. It's the same way we manifest anything in our lives. Everything comes from Source, so it all must be the same in a sense. What happens is the degree to which something begins to manifest varies almost infinitely. Sorry, I'm trying to hold the phone and read at the same time over here. Also, my dad's calling me. Hold on, Pops. If a degree of happiness can stretch to incomprehensible heights, what does that say about the degree of happiness in the other direction? Does it make it sadness? It might, but one person's sorrow is another's blessing, so that can't always be the case. The problem is, most don't realize that opposites are the same and therefore fail to realize that transmuting emotions is exceedingly more manageable than we previously realized. There really is no cold, only an absence of heat, no darkness, just an absence of light. And no sadness, but an absence of happiness. We begin to distinguish emotions and thoughts. We begin to observe that whenever we see something as not good, it's not that it's bad, but that there's a lack of something good. This awareness, this new paradigm of thought will make all the difference in the world, and now we have fun. Polarity allows us to relish in difference. Polarity is the reason a red rose is so beautiful in a field of white ones. It's why a white flower is so beautiful in a field of red. Polarity allows a stark contrast for a truly individualistic involvement with the world and everything inside of it. If there was not an opposite for us to compare to, how would we truly be able to embody and experience and appreciate it for what it really is? How would we know pleasure without pain, happiness without sorrow? How would we know anything if everything was the same? What experience would we leave this world with if there was nothing but one thing to experience? Woe is me. If I gave you a green apple to eat and it was from the same tree for the entirety of your life, and at the end I asked you if the green apples are good, you might say good as compared to what? And rightly so, for you've only ever eaten green apples. How should you know if the green apples are really good? They might be disgusting compared to red apples, but you have never experienced red apples, so you cannot have an opinion on the matter. You might think green apples are good solely because you've had them your entire life, which seems an awfully boring and dull way to come to appreciate something. They are just apples and you eat them. On to the next life. The point of life is to be passionate, to live, dream, play, and to do it all within the intricacies of personified emotion and energy. We learned from our frog friends that there's no such thing as good and no such thing as bad, big or small. All these concepts represent the same thing, the difference residing in the degree to which it manifests. I'm glad I put that asterisk in there. So, the concepts of good and bad, yes, are the same, two sides of the same pole. However, the difference resides in the degree to which it manifests. Everything has an opposite, everything, including our minds and mental states. This is how we apply the law of polarity for mental transmutation, to change our internal mechanics and therefore our universe. If the universe is mental, and creation begins with the mind, it is the mastery of mind that will allow us mastery of the universe and mastery of creation. Our mental states and emotions, which are incredibly powerful tools for manifestation, can be changed. Manipulated, transmuted from one degree to another. This is the real sorcerer's stone, not physical lead into gold, but mental lead to gold. Perspective, perspective, perspective. Perspective is what we must focus on. Part of Einstein's theory of relativity is that everything is in relation to everything else. Everything is and isn't at the same time. There are two sides to every coin. We know this to be true, but not necessarily how to apply it. Yet in learning how to apply it, we rise above the swinging pendulum of lower vibrational states. We have learned in previous chapters that it is our perception of circumstances that defines the absolute outcome of a happening. This means that we are able to, more or less, dictate the outcome of an event based solely on how we choose to interpret that event within our minds. If we can find something useful, then the event is not a total loss, and we learn from it. Something just blew in my eye. Ouch. I saw it coming too. You learn how to manipulate your mind so that it works for you and not against you. That's why you are here. Let's practice with the mental state of courage and fear. If we accept the paradigm in which these states are actually the same, only varying in degree, we can see that neither one is good or bad because in actuality they are the same. Most people avoid fear. They avoid what frightens them and seamlessly scant themselves out of situations that could transform their lives. If only they made the leap, if only they could trust the blind jump into nothingness and let their wings unfold on the way down. But alas, most of them stay on the shores of safety, never to allow their boats to cast into the uncertainty of the ocean. You understand that fear and courage are the same thing and are driven by a new kind of paradigm. One that says to follow excitement recklessly into the world. This is the new reaction we aim for when you find yourself in a truly fearful situation, and you will. Understand that the fear is only presenting you with an opportunity to be great. Instead of resisting fear, all you have to do is promote the movement up the scale to courage. Begin to notice that fear was never really fear, it was only a manifestation of a lack of courage. Brimming with this newfound potential, we can laugh at how much of... Brimming with this newfound potential, we can laugh at how much of worry is false flagged and misconstrued. We can turn into thieves, like Robin Hood and his comrades, poor in materials but rich in spirit, merriment, and laughter. What is there possibly to be afraid of? Failure? Death, perhaps? Death is a man we shake hands with every time we step out the door. Look at him and say, "Hi there, Death. What adventures shall we embark upon today?" How can we possibly be afraid to die when we have lived such rich lives? Like Peter Pan once said, to die would be an awfully great adventure. And who knows? You might even end up back home. This is my book, 7 Pillars, where I break down the Hermetic philosophy in as good a way as any human can, I guess. And I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for tuning in, and let me get a nice little smile for the thumbnail. That's a good one. Alright, if you made it this far in the video, my name's Keith, Man Letters, Knowledge, Information, and Entertainment. You know how we do it. Thanks for hanging out. Subscribe if you made it this far. If you've been on the channel for quite some time and you keep getting benefits out of it, feel free to join in and support on the Patreon, $1 a month or something. And hey, if you support with like $5-10 a month on the Patreon, you get fat discounts on my Etsy shop, so you make all that money back when you buy candles and stuff from my Etsy shop. So it's a win-win situation. You support me, I support you, we support each other, we grow the squad, 200 mil squad, you know what I mean? But thank you guys for the continued support that you have, or ones that have joined and shared my videos. I see you guys sharing my videos. Thank you so much. Liking the videos, commenting, and just being all around homies. Thank you tremendously. And I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, take it easy. Peace out.